Good day, everyone. Today, I'll be reporting about the views of the learning process. The views of the learning process shift as time passed by. Let's tackle first the traditional view of the learning process. During the 20th century, when the agricultural and industrial revolution arose, the view of learning is characterized as teacher-centered approach. That time, parents are into labor works while they left their children at daytime to the guidance of the teacher as the children went to school. In this, the teacher is the expert and dispenser of knowledge to the students. The following are the traditional educational paradigm is often characterized. First, learning is hard. If students are enjoying the learning activity, they are probably not learning. It is because the activity itself is not for the growth and development of the students' learning. Also, the activities are for fun and entertainment only. There is no enough resources for the teacher can use in delivering the instruction like gadgets or other form of technology products that we can use now. It is hard because it is a teacher-centered approach. Students always rely on the teacher for everything in the whole process of learning. Second is, learning is based on the deficit model of the student. The educational system's focus is on the weaknesses of the students, merely on the strengths. As implied by the term, compensatory education is designed to make up or remediate learning that some children, particularly poor minority children, do not have, but which the curriculum and structure of schooling assume that are common to all children. From this, the educational activities are for remedial of the student's performance based on the standard of the school's expectations rather than enhancing their own talents and skills to open up for opportunities. Third is, learning is a process of information transfer and reception. Information oriented, emphasizing students producing knowledge rather than producing their own knowledge. This is also a teacher-centered approach, where teacher is a dispenser of information and a role to students here as a passive receiver, storer, and repeater of the transmitted information. As teacher also relies on the textbook readings and fill-in worksheets practices that pushes the students to become a passive learner and do not have the capability or develop their thinking skills. In this figure 1.1 Information Transfer Model of Learning. Here, in this figure, it shows that the teacher is the expert for everything the students need to know. The teacher is the teacher-centered approach or simply as spoon-feeding approach. Next is learning is individual or solitary process. In this view, it is also a teacher-centered approach. Learning is like a 1:1 proportion. Students will learn if they work alone, experiencing first-hand observation individually. It is because the students are given worksheets by the teacher who is the brain for everything in the class, so this allows them to think for themselves. Next is um, learning is facilitated by breaking content or instruction into small isolated units. The educational system is often geared more to categorizing and analyzing batches of knowledge than to sewing them together. According to Brewer 1993, the technology of mass education is quite adept at breaking knowledge into skills into thousands of little standardized, decontextualized pieces which could be thought and tested one at a time. On Neil's Postman book, Teaching as a Perceptivity, states that our educational system breaks knowledge and experiences into subjects relentlessly, turning wholes into parts, history into events without restoring continuity. In this view, the content of the subject are divided into chunks and be taught to the students gradually without refreshing the students the continuity of the topic. Next is learning is the linear process. What the teacher asks to teach, the students learns it linearly. For example, in mathematics, there is only one solution to the specific problem. However, in real life or in mathematics, seldom have one solution, path, or sequence. Another is when the teacher teaches the students on counting the numbers, the students learn to count linearly without the integration of counting numbers to counting money, votes, and prices of goods. Here, learning is a linear process. As time passes by, in contrast to the traditional teaching learning paradigm, a new paradigm of teaching learning process is emerging based on the 3 decades of research in human learning that encompasses the following views of the human learning processes. First is learning is a natural process. The natural state of the brain is to learn, however, not everyone learns in the same way. In this view, it is characterized as learner-centered. It also considers the learning style, interest, personality of the student to make the learning process more engaging and interesting using the computer-related activities. Next is learning is a social process. As Vygotsky noted before that students learn best in collaboration with peers, students, teachers, parents, and others when they are actively engaged in meaningful, interesting tasks. This has something to do with the collective brains, where more people are involved, more brainstorming happens, more ideas to discuss with and learn. With the help of the ICT, it helps to provide for both the teacher and the students an opportunity to collaborate. For example, are the group works and the group projects. Next, number three is learning is an active and not a passive process. In this view, it also allows the students to move toward competence. They must be actively engaged in the learning process in activities such as solving real problems, producing original writings, completing scientific research projects rather than simply studying about science, dialoguing with others on important issues or debate, providing artistic and musical performance, and constructing physical activities. In this view, it has something to do with the learning by doing. Next is learning may either be linear or non-linear. Students learn by argumenting, combining, and rearranging collection of activity cognitive maps, many of which overlap or interconnected through a complex network of associations. Thus, not all learning can or should occur linearly because it is integrative and contextualized. This has something to do with the problem solving or next is learning is integrative and contextualized. The information presented globally is more easily assimilated elements for students could easily associate relationships and connections rather than information presented only in a sequence of information. Number six is learning is based on the strengths model of the student's abilities, interest, and culture. In the work of Howard Gardner and others, schools are beginning to consider the specific strengths and interests that students bring to the learning environment and are designing learning activities that build on the students' strengths rather than focusing only upon remediating weaknesses. Number seven is learning is assessed through a task completion, products, and real problem solving of both individual and group efforts. The paper and pencil test is not the sole assessment to be done by the teacher to the students. Before, if you have low scores on the test or quizzes, you surely fail on the subject. Paper pencil test only assess the cognitive domain of learning. However, it changed. Instead of solely paper pencil test, portfolio assessment and performance tasks are implemented whether in the individual or group work so that creative thinking skills, high order cognitive skills to solve problems must be developed and also collaboration. As noted by Driscoll 1994, we have no longer can view learners as empty vessels waiting to be filled, but rather as active organisms seeking for meaning. Next is from the book of Don Tapscott, Growing Up Digital, The Rise of the Net Generation notes that we are entering a new era of digital learning in which we are in the process of transitioning from broadcast learning to integrative learning. Um, Indeed, technology has a big role in the changes of society, thus it also changed the expectation to the students' capabilities and function in the new world economy. Make use of the unlimited information they can get through the internet and master it in this technological society. Here is a matrix to differentiate the shift from teaching to learning. A shift from teacher-centered instruction to learner-centered instruction is needed to enable students to acquire the new 21st century knowledge and skills. The following table of Zandholz, Brinkstoffs, and Dewar 1997 identifies the shifts that take place in changing a focus on teaching to focus of learning. Um, from the classroom activity, instead of the teacher is the source of all the information, the classroom activities are interactive to the students so that they can share ideas. On the teacher's role, instead of teacher is always the expert of the students plays role of the learner process as they learn with the collaboration with others. On the emphasis of instruction, instead of facts memorization of the information, the students learn through relationships, inquiry, and invention to learn effectively. From the concepts of knowledge, instead of accumulation of facts or a quantity, transformation of facts to learn effectively, or making it doing the activity so that they could learn it effectively. Demonstration of success. Instead of norm reference demonstration, quality of understanding to learn effectively. From the assessment, instead of multiple choice items or simply as the paper pencil test, criterion referenced, portfolio, and performance to assess all the domains of learning. And lastly, the technology used instead of technology is used as drill and practice. It is used for communication, access, collaboration, and expression. And another matrix is from changes in teacher's role. Instead of the teacher is the knowledge transmitter, primary source of information, context expert, and the source of all answers, controls, and directs all aspects of learning. They are the learning facilitator, collaborator, coach, mentor, knowledge navigator, and co-learner. Gives the students more options and responsibilities for their own learning. And for students, instead for students who are passive recipient of information, reproducing knowledge, learning as a solitary activity, they are active participant in the learning process. They do the activity so that they could produce and share knowledge participating at times as expert. Learning can be collaboratively with others. Um, Here are the theories that supports the new view of learning process from teacher-centered to student-centered. In this, the student-centered environment illustrated in the figure shows that the learner interacts with other students, the teacher, information resources, and technology. In this view, the learner are active agents who engage in their own knowledge construction by integrating new information into their schema or mental structures. The learning process is seen as the meaning of making in socially, culturally, historically, and politically situated context. The following are the theories that supports the new view of learning process. According to Vygotsky's social-cultural theory, learning as a social process and origination of human intelligence in society or culture. Social interaction plays a fundamental role in development of cognition. Vygotsky believed that everything is learned in two levels. First is through the interaction with others, and then integrated into individual's mental structure. The idea of the potential of the cognition development is limited to the zone of proximal development or ZPD. This zone is the area of exploration for which the student is cognitively prepared but requires help, so social interaction to help fully develop are also called as scaffolding. Next is from John Piaget. John Piaget's theory of constructivism addresses how learning actually occurs, not focusing on what influences learning. The role of teacher is very important. Instead of giving a lecture to the teachers in the theory of function as facilitators, whose role is to aid the students when it comes to their own understanding. This takes away the focus from teacher and lecturer and puts it upon the students and their learning. The resources and the lessons plans that must be initiated for this learning theory take a very different approach towards traditional learning as well. Instead of telling, the teacher must begin asking. Instead of answering questions that only align with the curriculum, the facilitator in this case must be taken so that the student comes to the conclusion on their own instead of being told. Also, teachers are continually in conversation with the students, creating learning experiences that is open to new directions depending on the needs of the students as the learning progresses. Teachers follows Piaget's theory of constructivism must challenge the student by making them effective critical thinkers, not by being merely a teacher but also a mentor, consultant, and a coach. And from Jerome Bruner, the theoretical framework of Bruner is that learning is an active process in which learners construct new ideas or concepts based on their current or past knowledge. The learner aspects and information, transforms, constructs hypotheses, and makes decisions relying on cognitive structures to do so. There are three principles to guide developmental instruction. These are first is instruction must be concerned with experiences and context that makes the students willing and able to learn. Second is spiral organization. Instruction must be structured so that the students can easily grasp it. Lastly is the going beyond the information given. Instruction should be designed to facilitate extrapolation or infill gaps. Next is the theory of problem-based learning. It is a collaborative approach and building complex real-life problem in the professional setting. The PBL is designed to teach the students teach themselves. The students gather information and figure out on what they know and what the gaps in their knowledge. The teacher only facilitates the learning process that strategically directing the discussion as the students dig deeper on the material of their problem. By actively engaging the learning through problem solving, students do memorize content, work together, build a strong web of interconnected information that can use to solve real-life problems. Also, students master meaningful skills like teamwork, critical thinking, lifelong learning, and communication. Next is anchored instruction. It is a technological-centered learning approach which falls under the social constructionism paradigm. It is also a form of situated learning that emphasizes problem solving with integrated learning context which can be examined from multiple perspectives. In other words, the learning is contextualized to provide the students with realistic roles that serves to enhance the learning process. For example, during classroom activities are designed and tied around an anchor such as an adventure story with a problem at the end that needs to be solved. This embed all the information needed to the problem to be solved. It's like having a motif in your delivering of instruction. Next is distributed cognition. It is an approach that deploys the models of extended mind. It emphasizes collective brains to enhance cognitive growth. We learn from others perspectively, ideas and beliefs through interacting with them and both dialogue and disclosure. Cognitive flexibility theory. It is the mental ability to switch between thinking two different concepts and think about multiple concepts simultaneously. It is the ability that allows to adapt to unfamiliar and unexpected situations to integrate different perspectives and shifts problem-solving strategies. It is usually described as one executive functions. Next is the cognitive apprenticeship. It is an instructional process process in which teachers or more experienced or knowledgeable peers provide scaffolds to support the learner's cognitive growth and development. Cognitive apprenticeship permits the students to learn through their interaction, construct knowledge, and share knowledge building experiences with the other members of the learning community. ICTs provide powerful new tools to support cognitive apprenticeships, enabling groups to share online workspaces to collaboratively develop artifacts and intellectual products. Last is self-regulated learning. Those who are aware of their own knowledge and understanding what they know and what they do not know or need to understand, it combines self-observation, self-judgment, and self-reaction. It plays a crucial role in places or phases of learning and has the potential to increase the meaningfulness of students' classroom learning according to Schoenfeld 1987. ICT tool can use to make students' tactic knowledge public to help them develop metacognitive skills and become more reflective and self-regulated learners. That's all. Thank you.